Hello, welcome to Happiness is a Healthier Habit with me, your nutrition coach. My name is Jackie Poole, and here we talk about mom life, weight loss, habits, nutrition, and everything in between. And I recently listened to this podcast. It is one of my favorite podcasts. His name is Brian Buffini, and I will link him to the show notes here in case you're interested in getting some more motivation, getting some more inspiration on how to go about your life and how to make changes. But he is so good at communicating his message, and I just love hearing his stories. So know that he will be on the show notes at the bottom if you want to check his podcast out. But today I heard this quote that he said, "Is the juice worth the squeeze?" And so that instantly took me to when my mom used to, juice, oranges for us. And it's just the old juicer where you had to cut the oranges in half and you had to press it down, and there's this little thing circling around the orange and it collects somewhat of the pulp, and you see the juice dripping down until it kind of fills up, and then, she would make enough for a glass for everybody. And that was so good. And so what I did when I worked at my doctor's office, I had my manager, her son used to sell for FFA, and she would sell the red grapefruit, red ruby grapefruits, I think they're called. And they're actually my favorite fruit of all. And I just love juicing them this time of the year, right? It's usually late fall, early winter when they're really good. And, you get the choice between setting the settings, less pulp, more pulp. And that's a lot of work to cut the oranges and squeeze it and, serve everybody. And it's like a good, 30, 40 minutes. So everybody gets their juice and you clean up and it's messy. And it's a lot of work instead of, just going to the store, and you actually have the option of, buying it at the store now with little pulp to no pulp to extra pulp. So you have that option of buying that at the store as well. But we forget that the struggle is so much worth it, and we appreciate it so much. And it's literally one of my favorite things to drink and eat. And so it tastes amazing when I'm having it after I've done all the squeezing and juicing, and the benefits are just great. There's nothing but pure juice that you're getting from that juice squeeze. So to me, it's the question, is the juice worth the squeeze? And yes, it is. Sometimes we forget absolutely, what is what we want? Is this what we want? And it might seem hard and difficult, and the journey to whatever you're trying to accomplish, if it's hard, you're questioning, is it worth it? Do I want to continue with this? Does it even matter? And so that journey, all that work, all that cleanup that you have to do, and to do it again, you think about it twice. And of course, it would just be easier. We can just buy our results at the store. We can just, get somebody to do it for us, or, get somebody to, do all the hard work for us. But sometimes we got to ask ourselves, 3 important questions. Number 1 is, do you love yourself? And what is the greatest pleasure you take from? Number 2 is, what is your justification, or, what is acceptable for what you're doing today? And number 3 is, what return are you getting from what you're doing? What are the results? What are you profiting, right? Sometimes we got to think about the actions that we make. Sometimes instant gratification, we want things now. We want the cake now. We want the fast food now. We want, to eat now. We want to see results now. And so we don't think about how we're going to feel afterwards, how things are going to play out in the future. And so we want to use these 3 questions to really think about how we handle everything else, because sometimes we're so quick to want to get instant results, to want to feel better now, to, all of these things that come with the now. And, we have to really put work and effort on what we're trying to do. And we got to ask ourselves those questions, and because we don't want to feel like we're wasting our time. We don't want to feel like we're losing control. And of course, we want to feel better, and we will do whatever it takes. But sometimes thinking that whatever it means that you need to do it right away, where you're not going to struggle. When we hear struggle, we hear, oh, we do need to work as hard to do this, so we can do this instead of that. And sometimes that's called shortcuts. And our long-term goal, what is it that we're trying to do as far as our health? Because for me, that is the number one thing, especially when you're not feeling your best, right? We want those results instantly. And sometimes we don't know why we do the things we do. We let our thoughts and our emotions really define everything. And when we do that, we act impulsively, we react a certain way, and we feel like we might not have control. And that's what we kind of talked about in the last episode, about changing our thoughts to change our feelings, so we learn how to react better. And so if you want a little bit of more info on how to learn how to create new thought patterns and new feelings so you can start seeing some results, look at episode 28 and you'll get more insight on that. Now, achieving something great, usually when you achieve something, you get a sort of an accomplishment, right? When you lose the weight, you feel so accomplished, you feel like maybe you sacrificed a lot. And it's never the result of selfishness. So know that, because putting yourself through a struggle, putting yourself through all that hard work, it means so much more because you put in the effort. You have your own back. And so when you do that, you build that confidence in yourself to be like, hey, I can actually do this and I can maintain this. And, yes, it was hard, but look at me, look at where I'm at. And so that makes such a huge difference on how we go about life, how we present ourselves, how we treat others, and how we portray, into the world what we give out. Because once you do something, people start noticing, people start seeing like, hey, you look good. What did you do? Or, you start telling people, you're motivating them, be like putting ideas out there. I don't know if you've heard this before, but I know I'm not exactly sure what the exact quote is, but you are what the people around you are. And so you want to be the one that's changing and growing and moving forward. And sometimes it might feel like you're leaving people behind, or, you don't want to digress. And it's hard to do that and see sometimes, because like I said, it can be a struggle when you see yourself growing and blooming and doing all of these things and your inner circle is not moving upward. And sometimes you want to be the person that wants to continue growing, wants to keep pushing forward. And so you gotta make room for what makes you feel better. You gotta make room for what you truly want. And that means sometimes outgrowing, family members, friends, individuals that are not serving you, because we are put in this life to grow, to learn new things. Some, specific word that I've been, listening to lately is jaded. It's just, the definition of jaded is being tired or bored of something. And that's just the word that's just kind of been sticking on my head, and I've been listening to it here and there. And it's very important to know that if you feel like that, is because you are not putting yourself in a challenging situation, in a learning environment, in a place where you can grow. And we're put in this earth to, serve, to help others. And if we're not growing, if we're not learning, then we're not expanding ourselves. And one way to make ourselves feel better and feel good about who we are is by serving others, whether it's our family, whether it's our friends, whoever it is. It always feels good to give and help rather than receive, right? During Christmas, when you're giving out presents, it always feels good when you're the one giving. And so I wanted to put that idea out there because that quote, is the juice worth the squeeze? When we think about it in terms of our health, we have to push ourselves to really expand that comfort zone. Like, what are the places that we're uncomfortable with in doing? What are we dreaming of? What are your hopes? What are your goals? What is it that you are trying to achieve? And what are the comfort zones that you are going to have to be doing? For example, I know when I was younger, the gym was such a scary place for me. I would, just automatically stay in the cardio machines because mostly, 10, 15 years ago, most of the gyms, it was just men, and you would see like these sometimes bodybuilders and just like jacked guys. And I was younger, and so it was not a lot of women out there doing their thing. And so getting out of the comfort zone, you have to put in the work. Even though you don't know what's going to happen, but you have to keep putting yourself out there again and again and again. And sometimes, trust me, when I know that it can feel scary, you can feel anxious. What if it doesn't work? But know that you always have somebody like a friend or accountability that's always there supporting you no matter what, including myself, right? So you have the capability of doing so much more, but you have to get out of your comfort zone. You really have to step out of the box. So like I mentioned earlier, if you're somebody, for example, because we talk a lot about health here, and one of the main things that I see is people say to me, I want to feel better in my own body. And sometimes whether that be meaning, feel better in your clothes, feel better in your skin, don't feel as tired, get more energy, have the capability of being out and playing with the family and the kids. Some people are just tired of that. And so what does that mean, getting out of your comfort zone? Is maybe trying something new, because I hear a lot of excuses that people have, whether I can't do this, I don't like that, I can't make it at this time. And when we keep saying, I can't, we got to ask ourselves those 3 questions, because sometimes like I mentioned earlier, we are thinking of the now and how do we feel safe now, and don't think about our future. And so again, some of the questions that we have to ask ourselves: is this excuse that I have right now, am I justifying it? And is it acceptable for what I'm trying to achieve? Because we got to focus on our long-term goal. I don't want to be that old person that is being taken care of, that is doing, just sitting in the wheelchair and looking pitiful and sad and, everybody feeling sorry for me. I always think about that, and I don't want to be that person. And when you see that, because I've seen it firsthand, not, with family members, and I don't want to be there. And so I want to be able to run. I don't want to be out of breath when I'm walking. I want to be able to sleep wonderfully. And I have all of these goals and dreams and things that I want to do, right? And so pushing myself out of the comfort zone. Like I said, people want to feel better about themselves, but what are you willing to do to see the results, to see, the profits? Are you willing to invest in yourself? Are you willing to put in the time that you need to put, whether it be at the gym or in the kitchen? And to be honest, the kitchen doesn't have to be hard. There's a lot of people that I know that automatically tell me, well, I don't have time to cook. I don't like eating vegetables. But to be honest, it's a mind thing. You have to really go back to what you're really trying to do, because if it were easy, then everybody would do it. And to be honest, what is normal now, the health normal is now, is not normal. And it's okay to be out of place. It's okay to be the one that's called weird, because to be honest, I enjoy the food that I eat. I'm trying to make it simple. I try to make it easy. I like my juices. You don't have to go out and be cooking all of these, things that you've never tried before, especially as a Hispanic, person. I'm venturing out into new things now to see what serves me and what's easy for me, but I always try to make things simple. And one of the things that helps is by planning and trying new things. But when you automatically already say, well, I don't have time for this, and I don't want to spend time cooking and cleaning. Okay, so what options are there for you? There are cooking services now. People buy meals, prepaid meals that you don't have to cook, that's already there for you. People have services that are already that way. What are you willing to spend and invest and do for yourself? Because there's so many ways that you can alter those thoughts, but you have to find them and be creative and not let you stop you from continuing and building on what you're trying to do. So, going back to the question, is the juice worth the squeeze? And I'm going to say yes. It's going to have to be a yes. All that juicing, all that cleaning up, all that mess, it's going to be worth it for that glass of grape juice, of orange juice that is freshly squeezed, that has all the vitamins and minerals. And it doesn't matter how much mess I have to do to get that glass, that juice is so worth it. So think about that and ask yourself this: is the juice worth the squeeze? Thank you for listening today. As a reminder, it is a new month and I have space for 2 individuals who are ready to get coached, who are ready to learn to develop healthy habits so they can have energy, they can feel better in their own body and their own skin. I am open for discovery calls, and the links where you can schedule will be on the show notes. And if you don't mind sharing or reviewing this episode, please do. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.